that literally was created from whole cloth. Me, God's comic Brad Stine, created a brand new human who exuded from my loins to become my son. Someone who I have allowed to be my sidekick, produce my, direct my, edit my, and laugh and joke with my podcast. You'd think he'd be a little appreciative. And if every now and again, out of the blue, for no reason, I just borrowed one of his shirts, a shirt I probably bought, he wouldn't say a word. He'd probably be proud. Look, my old man's wearing one of my shirts. He looks hip and cool, and I'm proud that he wants to have a participation in my clothing wardrobe selection. But no! He whines and complains like the typical 27-year-old. And for that reason, I had no option but to get a brand new shirt to let the world know that this shirt, it's not Wyatt's, it's mine, given to me by my daughter and my son yesterday for my birthday. I'm sure all of you want to wish me happy birthday. Send me donations, cards, and coins, as well as bullion, hand-woven blankets, and hens. And my answer to you is, oh, please, please, do that. I can take all I can get for this podcast to keep going. In the meantime, let's get this podcast going. As a matter of fact, I can't think of a better way to launch it than with a little ditty that goes a little like this. Hey, it's me, God's comic Brad Stine. This is, again, a Monday night filled with Brad Stine Has Issues, where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide in a cacophony of clarity. I am God's comic Brad Stine. This is my shirt, not Wyatt's. I would have worn him his, but he whines about it. And this is the problem with America. Whining children. Wyatt, how are you?
Yes, that's the problem with America. People wanting to keep the things they own.
Well, I'll tell you this. If the things they own came from their father's pocketbook and all he was doing was borrowing it, as opposed to the stealing you called it, then I could understand. But no, sir, you guys even made me this shirt so I could demonstrate to you how creative and clever you are, but more importantly, how much it bothers you and irritates you because I borrow one of your dang shirts, which, by the way, aren't that cool.
I thought you said they made you look. Oh, how did you describe it? Ah, yes, hip. Let me tell you, my friend, no one who is hip says hip.
Is that right?
You need a new hip.
Okay.
That's not what I'm talking about here.
Well, that's because I'm getting older, son. It was my birthday yesterday, and for those of you who want to wish me a happy birthday, somebody said to me, how old are you? And you know what I always answer, Wyatt, when somebody asks me? Matter of fact, let's try it. Let's do a little thought experiment. Just ask me how old I am.
How old are you?
No, that wasn't the way I would answer. If you asked me it that way, I would think something was wrong with you, like you had a blow to the head, you had a terminal disease, you were under anesthesia and thus couldn't speak properly. So do it like it was legit.
Fine, I'll do it like it's legit.
Yes? Oh, hi. Welcome, sir. What can I do?
How old are you now? Tell me.
Me?
Yes, you, age now.
Why, I'm eternal.
Can you put that in the form of a number?
I am living forever. There are no numbers to forever.
Oh, so you're
I don't know if
Got
you
it.
know the difference between a actual infinite and a, what's the other one?
Relative infinite?
I don't know.
Absolute infinity versus relative infinity, I know.
Yeah. So Absolute infinity means it really exists in
Absolute
real.
infinity means it has always been infinity and always will be. It is truly infinite.
Well, then if you live forever, then you're actually infinite.
Yeah, but what if you live for 5 ever?
Well, here's what's interesting about infinite wide. No, here's what's interesting.
I'm just
Though.
gonna ignore that one.
No. Here's the thing. What makes infinity so challenging is there was no beginning as well as no end. We think of infinity as going on forever, forgetting that it went on forever the opposite direction. That's part of the reason why people have a difficulty with the idea of some of the neo-Darwinism in regards to the time frame needed for some of the forms to supposedly take place based on the age necessary for this neo-Darwinistic characteristic to work, is that if we were in an actual infinite, we would have already gone way past it. Matter of fact, we'd probably be at the end of the earth by now. It'd all be gone. Infinity's hard to grasp, right? Maybe we should just stick to our little podcast and say hi to Nick Kress. He's watching us.
He's always watching us.
I know, it's so odd. Folks, I got to tell you something. Tonight's show is a special show. Did you ever remember hearing about the Me Too movement? White, did you ever hear about it?
Yeah, I mean, I did, and you did too.
Yeah, everybody did. Me too. So the Me Too movement was a very kind of launching of an idea of women in the workplace who were sexually assaulted and or provoked, or they were put in a position where they were told if you want to achieve something, you got to give up sexual favors. So a woman came out of a business scenario and sued someone for the sexual advances for her career, and she ended up winning and putting an end to Roger Ailes' reign at Fox News. Her name was Gretchen Carlson. She was part of the most popular morning show that was ever happening. I don't know if it still is. She was a former Miss America. She was a former overseer, I think, or at least what would you call it, a participant or board member of Miss America. Basically launched, or at least was at the beginnings of the Me Too movement, brought down Roger Ailes, who was like the biggest honcho in town. And she's still going to town, doing quite well with her life. And she is our guest tonight. She's also a woman that I was in a movie with, shot in New Mexico, called Persecuted. So we're old friends, and she will be on tonight. And she's a very interesting woman, very accomplished, very smart, very savvy, a real go-getter, real hard-headed, not somebody you want to trifle with. And yet, on the show, she seemed kind of, sweet and kind, and I guess they were trying to create kind of this image of the, I don't know, dumb blonde, if you want to use an old framework. But trust me when I say she may be blonde, but she ain't dumb. Far from it. And she will be our guest tonight. So this is quite a coup and going to be quite a wonderful, incredible interview that you guys are going to find very interesting, intriguing, and finding kind of the backstory of her life, the things that happen, and who she actually is, in her faith, in her conservatism therein or not, where she grew up, where she's from. And so this is going to be quite a night for you guys. And I'm bringing it to you because you're my people, and I will give you whatever it is you want. What? I got to say hi to some of these folks because...
Oh, so I was wondering, what would you forget? That we have an audience, actually.
Do you know that Nick Kress is not watching me with, let's see, why do I always forget? There was somebody that was watching with him that got mad last week because I said that, how does she end up with him? And then she goes, I'm with my husband, what do you mean? And then it was terrible.
No,
horrible.
No.
Remember that?
No, but I'm sure the audience will never let you forget.
Michael Quackenbush is with him today.
Yeah.
The bushquacker ain't screwing around. He's right there with Nick, observing things from afar, or maybe from inside. We've never known why he always ends up in front. All we know is it's awkward, it's weird, it's frightening. It's makes you feel you're being viewed. Maybe he's got a drone. Don't put it past St. Nick to have a drone running right now as we speak. You know who's else is here, White? Clovis Jones is here. The Quackenbush is here. Perfect shirt, saith Michael Quackenbush, or as we like to call him, the Bushquacker. Aaron Oakes is here. Happy birthday, Brad. A little late there, buddy. It was yesterday. Wyatt, did he send me any money or gifts yesterday, Aaron Oakes?
You know what?
What?
I don't think he did.
And yet he says happy birthday the day after, as though that makes up for it. The answer is no. Either send me cash or I don't want to hear about the after birth party.
Is that really how you're going to phrase that? Really?
You know what Karen Boyd said?
You know I'm in charge of clipping parts of this interview. In fact, you know what? I'm going to write that down right now.
Why?
Just figured, just in case.
Karen Boyd said, ha, 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 love the shirt. So she's jumping in. Desi Wilhelm, happy belated birthday. Did you send me cash? If not, I don't want to hear about the belated birthdays. Either nail me on the birthday or nothing. And then Nick Kress just said, happy birthday. You know what? I don't care. It's over. Wyatt, if your birthday was a month ago, can somebody just wish you happy birthday and it still counts? Or shouldn't it be on the birthday? Not the next day. It's not happy birth next day, is it?
I mean, by that logic, I'll just give you like 27 birthdays worth of presents and then just say, all right, I'm good.
Yeah, I'll catch you on the 28th. If I make it in 28 more years, yeah. Give them all in one pop.
It doesn't work that way at all.
Ashley Haas says, happy belated birthday. I've heard of Ashley Haas. Can't remember where. I can't put a place in the name. Who is she? Ashley Haas.
No, that's...
what is it?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, well, read your tongue then.
Okay, my tongue says... So I don't know how to translate that.
I know it because your tongue speaks in odd, like Swahili.
You could have said that it speaks in tongues.
Yeah, but that was too on the nose.
Well, for even you.
Wait. I could have said it speaks in tongues, but that would have been too on the nose, which would have made it lowbrow, and I wanted to say face. Boom! Complete face joke in one fell swoop.
You didn't get the eyes, though. You didn't get the eyes.
Well...
Or the ears, I think.
Okay, I hear you. Ashley Haas is the young woman. Well, she's 32, so she's older than you, but you've been having text conversation. You guys are little buddies now.
Today she asked me if a polar bear would beat a gorilla in a fight.
So how do you not love Ashley? How do you not love a woman
Which,
at
by the way,
32
it would.
who's a piano teacher? So she's quite gifted. Did you know that she had her first concert was at Madison Square Garden at her piano solo, Wyatt?
No, I didn't know that.
I lied.
I also don't know what Madison Square Garden is.
Yeah, I made the whole thing up. Clara Beatty. Hey, Brad and Wyatt and everyone. Aaron Oakes. Hit it, Wyatt. Rebecca Daly Dwyer. Hello from Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. Hello to Wyatt also. She must cut and paste because it's always exactly the same thing. Clovis Jones is here. Rebecca mentioned her. Marsha Pointer Reed. Good evening, Brad and White and everybody. Love the shirt. I'll bet you do. Sandy R. Davis. Happy birthday. Nice shirt. It's not my birthday. It was yesterday. Why? Do I have to say this to everybody?
I mean, it's looking like it. No, you know, how about this? Why don't you just do another polar bear plunge and then say, you know what, that taken care of. Everything taken care of.
Ash Hainsworth says, happy birthday, Woody Harrelson look and sound alike.
No, seriously, though. You did that how many times?
Sandy R. Davis, twice. Well, I did it yesterday, too, so 3 times, but I filmed it twice. Sandy R. Davis, 57. Hey, Forrest Bainey. Hello, Brad and White. Way to face your fears with a polar plunge in a heated pool.
All right, go back out there, then.
You know what Forrest Bainey can do, don't you?
The force?
Yeah. I'm going to force him into my pool. Jeff Hayes. Hey there, Brad. Happy belated birthday. I don't want a belated birthday. Either nail it on the day or just
but here's the thing,
leave me in peace. Or send me money. Don't just give me a happy belated. Send me a card and send me some cash. Donate it to the podcast. We'll keep it going. We'll keep the thing going.
But I have a question, though.
Yeah.
If they say happy birthday to you the day after, is that a day late or 364 days early?
That's what I'm saying. It's 364 days early. That's why it bothers me so much. Clara Betty's here. Let's see. Aaron Oakes. Oh, I got him. Plenty Flowers. She's here. I love Plenty Flowers. I love flowers, and I love plenty of them. Dave Zobzak, happy birthday. He helps me with my travel plans, Wyatt. Let's see. They're bringing up the ice a lot, Wyatt. Jeannie Dixon, happy birthday. It's not. That was yesterday, but I'll say it every time if I have to. Karen Boyd said, excellent point. She's probably referencing your mathematical agility. Let's see. Kevin Brumfield, why is your stage so dark? I think you're going blind, Kevin. You should go see your optometrist tomorrow. Happy birthday. Clovis Jones, I was just talking to my daughter and Franklin about you doing the polar bear plunge. Yeah. Well, I did. And I didn't call it a polar bear plunge. I called it jumping into my pool full of ice to show these people.
Okay, seriously, how does a salt pool ice oval? Doesn't ice, like, make water not... doesn't salt make water not freeze as well? Like, isn't that why you salt the road so that the ice melts and then doesn't refreeze?
Yeah.
So then how did our salt pool freeze over? It wasn't that cold, was it?
It must have been out of salt. Hey, you know what Aaron Oak said? Took a break on my Bachelor's of Divinity waiting to hear from Texas. If I got the job or not, we'll get back to it once I know if I'm moving or not. Please continue praying for my family and I find God's will. Of course we will. Paula Faye Marie Rauchi's here. Wyatt? Who's Paula Faye Marie Rauchi?
Okay, that's... your favorite four-named lady. Who needs four names exactly, though? I wish I had four names. I guess technically I have four names, but one doesn't count.
Let me explain something to you about Paula Faye Marie Rauchi. Is she a donor to our podcast in this ministry?
I would say probably, considering you bring it up.
By any chance, did you get a random check?
Oh, shoot, yeah, I did. And thank you for that, by the way.
Who was it from?
I forget.
Who was it from?
I generally forget.
Who gave you the random check, Wyatt?
Well, technically you did, because you gave me the mail.
And it was from? I think she called herself on the check Paula Rauchi.
Paul Marine Rauchi. Okay, what's the name again? It's
Hall of Fame Marie Rauchi.
Hall of Fame. I keep thinking Hall of Fame whenever I hear that first part.
Hall of Fame, yeah.
Yeah, Hall of Fame.
Well, anyways, Wyatt, do you want to say anything to Hall of Fame?
Thank you so much for paying me more money than he has made the entire podcast.
She is quite a kind donor to this podcast and this ministry, and she sent Wyatt a little bonus, I guess probably Christmas, saying, hey, this is for what went through my through the signatory that handles donors, so she sent it there, so they had to forward it, so it was probably a little later. I'm sure it was for Christmas, but anyways, that was very sweet of you, Paula Faye, to help my son out, and he actually bought burritos with that or something, I'm sure, because he's hungry.
Do you have any idea how many Taco Bell burritos $50 can buy you? 18.5. Don't ask how I know.
Aaron Oak said, can't wait to the interview. Well, I can't wait because Brad and Wyatt are awesome as well. The highlight of my week. Wyatt, if you ever thought there was a time in your life when you and I would be the highlight of somebody's week, what would you think about evaluating that person?
It's kind of a lackluster week.
I'm
not gonna lie. Oh. Maybe not bad, but definitely
Carrie Tudor,
not
thank
top
you.
10 weeks in life.
Karen Boyd jumped in and said, Carrie Tudor. Yes, I haven't seen her yet. I always mix up Karen Boyd with Carrie Tudor. I mix up when I start to say it gets confusing. Anyways, Benjamin's not here. Thanks for saying that, Karen. Jim Bronoff finally showed up. Hey, Brad and Wyatt, glad you survived the snow. Looking forward to the interview. Snow, you should have seen the ice. Let me think.
Okay. No, but seriously, that ice was, in some places, it was over a half an inch thick.
Wyatt, have I ever talked to you about Jeannie Dixon?
You have not, actually.
Well, Jeannie Dixon wished me happy birthday, and I told her, as I told everyone else, it was not my birthday, and I was frustrated. And you know what she said? And you know, she's sweet. I mean, she's a Southern gal. It says, I said it because everyone else was, so I thought it was today. It's not today. I take it back, asshat.
Wait, I'm sorry. Whoa. Hold on. The podcast law has just extended. Okay.
What?
What?
I thought that was fun.
Hold on. You did not have to tell me it's not your birthday today. I don't care. I was following the crowd, and it's too late now.
Yes.
I've donated before, but that's it. I'm done, dude.
Dang it!
Dang it, that sweet, lucrative, what's the name again? Jeannie Dixon money, no!
Jeannie!
Jeannie!
You've been here before. We joke with you, for crying out loud. She's just joking. She's joking with us. She knows we're joking.
Yeah.
Let me think. Let's see. Jeannie says, you are so behind. I know, I really am. Well, I always am behind on this. Okay, well, I've caught up. We are up to speed, and I've talked to everyone. So what? I wondered about this idea of the podcast and really the format. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you guys tonight about was this, and we're going to have this amazing interview with Gretchen. You're going to love it. But Wyatt and I have a conversation with somebody tomorrow, meeting with somebody tomorrow, and if it kind of pans out and we try some other angles, it might be of a benefit to the podcast. It might be. And so obviously you guys will be the first to know. But there's something you should know. The website, bradstine.com, is pretty much running pretty smoothly now. We've been working out a lot of the kinks. But there was something I needed to tell you guys. When I first started talking to you guys about the militia of the mind and the mighty 10,000, I said, I want to see if I can find 10,000 Americans who believe in this country, want to defend it, defend our faith, our freedoms, our liberties, and so forth and so on. And I wanted to find out if, we could help each other. I could bring on guests that would interest you, but also you could have access to their sites in case you needed legal help for religious liberty issue, if you needed fundraising help, which is Give, Send, Go, Heather Wilson, and that's the only one a Christian should use in the world, is Give, Send, Go. We just had different people that you could access to defend you and protect this nation, protect your faith, protect your people, your friends, your family. And that's really what I wanted this to do, and allow the podcast to grow. Some sketches are coming. I showed you last week one of the sketches you got to see before anybody else. So it's kind of like really trying to get out there and tell the story, tell God's story the way I do it, in unorthodox ways. Pushing the envelope, not to be irreverent, but only to just try to be creatively accessible and interesting and intriguing and sophisticated, so lots of people watch, pay attention, want to continue to participate in this and grow it, and maybe make a difference in life. And so that's kind of what we're doing. But when I first started talking to you guys about it, I wasn't sure exactly how it was going to work. I would talk about, hey, I want to have T-shirts that says Militia of the Mind. I want to have your number on it and everything. And I don't recall if I said, that's how I'm going to do it. I think, and I could be wrong, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that I was exploring what I hope to do, what I want to happen, what I think's going to happen. Well, now that we're getting closer and closer to being able to really move forward in this case, and we do have shirts that are now ready, and shortly I'm going to be signing the first couple numbers tomorrow, and I'll be shipping those to the first 2 people, and then they're going to put it on and take a picture of themselves and email it back to us, and we're going to show the whole ceremony of me signing it, and then you're going to get to see them wearing it, and that's going to be all of you who want to jump on. But here's the deal. As we looked into it, we realized that shirts are very expensive, and the problem is not only do you have to pay for them, because you don't buy a big batch, because I'm signing them, they're created one at a time, so it's more expensive that way. Then the person shipping it sends it, so that you have to pay for that. Well, that in this case, because I don't have a big bunch of shirts, they come out individually, they have to send it to me, then I sign it, then I ship it. So it's even more expensive, a double thing, so that you can get your personal signature and me filming it. So we found out we can't just give the shirts away. They're too expensive. It would ruin the profit that was supposed to go to helping the podcast grow. So you get to be part of the Mighty 10,000. You'll still get a number. I think what I'm doing is I'm making stickers, decals, that will say Mighty, Militia of the Mind, and I'll write your Mighty 10,000. I'll write a number down. I'll sign it, so I can send you that, and then you can stick that on a mug, or you can stick it on something. So you'll have something that kind of has your number and a signed thing. It's a personal thing, but that's affordable because it's a sticker. The shirts are expensive. You can buy a shirt and go to bradstine.com. You can buy it. and pay to upgrade to the Special Forces, which is the highest donating for the year, you get extra things. You get behind-the-scenes footage that the Warriors get and the Special Forces. You will get to be able not only to see all of my comedy online free, you can download it, so it's in your computer to take and keep forever. It's basically you bought it as a digital copy. But if you are one of the Special Forces, the $199, then you will get a free T-shirt. You will get that because it's more money, so it covers the cost of that. The other folks, you're going to have to buy it. Now, I will say this, if there's anybody out there that you believe I told you were going to get a free shirt, I don't remember saying that. I remember thinking that's what we're trying to do. But if that's what you think is happening, that's why you joined up for the low end, the $36, because I was trying to make that cheap for everybody. And you feel like, no, I thought I was supposed to get a shirt for that or whatever, then I will happily refund you your money. I don't want you to feel like I didn't come through with what I said. I just want you to know that that's what I was hoping to do, and then it turned out to be cost ineffective. Now, these are workout shirts. They're made out of a really sort of breathable material, so they're kind of expensive. And I did say, well, let's see if we can get some cotton versions that are a little bit not as expensive, so maybe people can buy those and they're not really that expensive, and you still can have access to those. So I'm trying my best to make this work for everybody. But if you want to go on the thread here and say, hey, I thought I was supposed to get a free shirt for that, I did not mean to do that, but I will not take your money. So just let me know, private message me if you want to. I'll send you back your $36 because I don't want you to feel ripped off. But if you realize what I'm doing and why this money isn't just to go in my pocket, it's to run all this, then, you know, we just found out that isn't going to work for that cost. But if you upgrade a bit, you can do it. Now, if you get 7 people to sign up for the cheap version, then I'm going to then you can get a free upgrade to the next level and actually get to a place where you'll be able to be a Special Forces 7 people, and then you'll get a shirt that way. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of clarify all that, let you know where we're at. Hopefully I'm going to get the shirts, well, I'm hoping to mail the shirts tomorrow, and then hopefully they'll get there and quick enough that we can get the pictures back. And if so, we'll try to put it up next week. If not, then following week on the podcast, we'll show the pictures of the first folks that got their shirts. So that's where we're at on this particular place. I'm excited about what might be a help in growth in building this podcast into a much wider audience. I'll let you know about that. I talked to somebody today about potentially having a sponsor, believe it or not, our first sponsor that will help the podcast grow. So I'm doing everything I can so that you guys can basically watch and enjoy this and help it grow for nothing. If you're part of the Mighty 10,000, $36, or if you're really, you know, the higher end donors, then of course you get extra things as well. So, you know, this is like everybody else, trying to make it cost effective, but most importantly, effective in that giving you great guests, me and Wyatt having fun together, but being Christ followers who are not ashamed of the gospel, not ashamed of what we believe is true, and trying to get the world to see that we are normal people, but we are well-thought people. We are not stupid. We do care about culture. We do care about what's happening in America and around the world, and we are going to call out spiritual dimensions that are evil and those that are great. We are going to live this thing like it's real because we believe it's real, and that's who we are. I don't think there is another podcast in the world. Maybe there is, so my bad. But has a Christian, conservative, stand-up comic who is also an actor, who is also podcast host, who also, you know, has authored books and done, and now sketches will be coming, hopefully more, and that's where part of the finances, by the way, that's coming in, if I do a campaign and everything, is to pay for a guy that's going to help me make these sketches. You got to pay these guys, and then they got to edit it. It's expensive. So again, it ain't lying in my pocket. It's paying so this thing can run for a whole year. So that's where we're at. That's what we're shooting for. And if that's what you believe in, tell people, please share this, send it out. But one of the things that we did want to explore is that, you know, most people don't watch a podcast live. They just don't. Most people don't do their podcast live. But I don't do the guest live. I could, if they came in the evening on a Monday night and sat here, we could do that. Now, I might have had one guy, Jonathan Chilifarro, I think, came once, my opera friend, because he lives next door. But most people can't do that, and certainly people that are out across the country. So we have to pre-tape it. It's a Zoom, or if they come here, we film it here, but they come when they can. I like it when they're here. I think it's more intimate and feels better. But a lot of these folks, like Gretchen, who lives in Connecticut, I think, you know, they can't be here. But you're going to see them because we do it through Zoom. So, but one of the things that, in discussing the podcast with this particular person who I'm hoping to soon tell you about that's going to help us build this podcast in a much broader audience, they are talking about, you know, cutting it down, at least for Spotify or for their platform, to just basically locking into the guest, kind of jumping there. That's where they think they can get more viewers and new viewers into their platform because of the guests I have and my ability to interview and whatnot. Wyatt and I will always do what we do, but maybe they will only just take the clipped portion and they'll just use that and put that up, and we'll have our own version doing our own way like we do right now. But one of the things I was thinking about was, maybe it's long. I mean, I love having you guys on because you come up every Monday and you are my friends, right, and my fans, and you're so loyal, and you talk to each other now, and I guess you just have made a little community for yourself and you're enjoying it, and certainly you are crazy loyal, and you stay through the whole thing, and it's late. It's a Monday night, and it can go 3 hours. I've had 2-hour interviews, and you guys hang in there. But I am thinking that this first part with Wyatt and I should be shorter, maybe, so that we can get to the guests quicker. So if you do me a favor, you are my test people. You are my market to tell me and help me grow this as God would do so. So write down on the thread, do you think it's better and okay for Wyatt and I to still do what we do and have fun, show some clips, but cut a little bit quicker to the audience? Do you think that would make people stay longer? Do you think that would be better? And while you're contemplating that, I'm going to show you a quick clip of my second plunge that people kept talking about. The first one I thought was fun and simple, and then people started saying it wasn't really icy, and it kind of ticked me off. So I said, well, I'm going in again. And anyways, it went out today on Instagram and is building quite a nice little following. But because you're my people, you get to see it right here. Wyatt, if you would, polar plunge number deuce. Hey folks, it's God's Comic Brad Stine. A couple days ago I did something interesting. I got into the pool that had sheets of ice over the top of it and said to you, this is what it looks like to overcome fears and use your mind to take what your body doesn't want to do and say, we will do what we want to discipline ourselves to do. So I got in this stinking pool, showed you guys sheets of ice, showed it, held it up, and actually had somebody go, oh, if it was really that cold, it would have had ice on the top. I showed you sheets of ice on the top. Then somebody else says, oh, is that a hot spa next to it? And I even had somebody say, is that a heated pool? I don't know. What kind of a heated pool has ice on the top of it? Nevertheless, I'm going to do this one more stinking time to prove to you people it's ice. Look, I don't want to do it, but I want to show you that you can do anything if you believe that there's something greater in life than being comfortable. So I'm going to go into this thing for a minute and show you what it looks like. Here we go. If I can break through the ice, that is. Gosh. Show the foot. Did you get it?
I think.
See it?
Hold up a sheet.
Here's a sheet of stinking ice.
Oh!
Are you ready?
Okay.
One
good luck.
Stinking minute. Look, look, look. Ice. Freezing. Ridiculous. Ice. And we go 1, 2,003, 1,004, 1,005, 1,006, 7,008, 9,010, 1,011. Take this. 1,013, 1,014, 15,000, 16,000, 17,000, 18,019. This sucks. 1,021, 1,022, 1,023, 1,024, 1,025, 1,026, 1,027, 1,028, 1,029, 1,030 haters. 1,031, 1,032, 1,033, 1,034, 1,035. 1,037, 1,036, 1,039, 1,040, 1,041, 1,042, 1,043, 1,044, 1,045, 1,046, 1,047, 1,048, 1,040. What's this? 1,051, 1,052, 1,053, 1,054. That hurts. 1,055, 1,056, 1,057, 1,058. 1,060. There. 1 minute in stinking ice sheets. The end. Holy crap. So take that, haters. Now, here's something that's interesting. Before we get to Gretchen, and I know you guys are excited about that, and you should be. You're going to love this. I had a lot of people comment on this second video. I mean, they loved the first one of me doing it, and I got to be honest with you guys. When I did this plunge, I told you, you can overcome things in your mind or whatever, but it sounded like a Tony Robbins seminar. Didn't mean it like that. Like we're going to walk on coals and swim in ice water, but I tried to give it a premise and said, you can overcome things with your mind, and your mind should be able to overcome what your body desires. That's what fasting is. It's taking things that you do truly desire and giving them to a bigger purpose. Letting that say, God, you're more important. I don't want my body. It should have its desires. It should desire sleep and food and rest and warmth. That's what keeps it alive. But to be able to overcome your mind, which I think has access to your soul, to say your body you don't get to dictate everything, you don't get everything you want, and we're going to have something else. We're going to replace this with a deeper meaning, a spiritual meaning, a discipline meaning. I think is an incredibly sacred thing a human can do, and you should do it. You should try it. I'm not saying you have to do the ice pool, do something else. But when I did that, I didn't do it to try to get accolades for doing it. I just was telling people you can be good at something. Just believe in yourself. It was that simple. And suddenly everybody's like, "Oh, you've inspired me, and you're amazing, and whatever." And I didn't think anything of it other than I wanted just people to think you can be whatever you want to be. Anyways, so I get people saying, I got a guy saying, and you heard me say it. Oh, if it was cold, there'd been ice on the pool. It's like you not see that, and then no one says, "Is that a heated pool?" And it was bothering me. It's like, if I am going to go through this crazy, I'd like at least being given credit for it. I mean, if I'm going to do it, at least say I did it. Don't act like I didn't do it. That's different. You don't have to tell me I'm great for doing it, but don't act like I didn't do it or lie or belittle it. That's what bothered me. So I did it again. But here's the most important thing. So there was a lot of people that said, and you'll see it if you go to the Instagram and see the thread of folks that commented. A lot of people said, hey, don't let them, don't give in to the haters. Hey, don't do what they tell you. They just did that to suck you in and make you do it again. Don't fall for it. You don't do, and I want you guys to know something. I understand what you're saying. You're right. You don't want others to dictate to you who you are, what you're going to do, or what is your integrity is, or whatever. But I didn't do it like, oh no, I have to prove I really did it, and I'm some rube that allowed these idiots out in the Netherlands to just make something up and then force me into some scenario that I wouldn't have wanted to do, and I'm a fool for falling for it, and they're just laughing their chops off at the idiot that fell for this. I did it because I was like, okay, do you want to see the ice? Let me show you the ice. I want to make sure the ice is firmly established. Bang, bang, bang. And then I decided even the first time, I wanted to get underneath and smash up through the ice. I just thought that'd be a dramatic clip. And I didn't do it. And it always kind of bothered me. I was like, man, I wish I would have popped up through the ice. So I said, you know what? It's icy again. It's not going to be like this. It's very rare. I don't know how few I've ever seen ice in my pool, but it's so rare to be that cold in Nashville that I may not get another shot for a long time for ice in my pool to do this thing. So I'm going to go back in and smash up through the ice because I want that shot. I think it's dramatic and interesting. So I did it. So I didn't really do it because I felt like I had to prove myself. I did it because I just kind of wanted to let everybody know I don't really care what you think of me. I'll do whatever I want. I'm not going to apologize for the truth. I'm not going to apologize for living in somebody's delusions. I'm not going to try to say or refer to people in ways that they demand if I know it's not true and does not comport to reality. I'm not going to do that. Well, that's not a very Christian thing to do. Matter of fact, it's the single most Christian thing you can do. Comport yourself to reality. Never lie and never diminish speaking boldly the truth out loud in your sphere of influence. This cowardice is what has brought such destruction on the church in the United States. Is cowardice, the fear to speak out, that it might make somebody uncomfortable. You know, it's my faith, but I don't want somebody to feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable about what? That they're going to hell? Maybe that's a good thing to make somebody uncomfortable about. Unless you don't believe it. If you don't believe it, and that you believe that, you know, Jesus doesn't care, and you can do whatever you want, and he'll let you in anyways. If that's what you believe, you're not a Christian, but then don't pretend that you are and don't attend church and give the illusion that you actually believe that Jesus Christ is this dimensionalized version of God into the human experience so he could show that there is a way to guarantee heaven by following his example, living a righteous life. And then when he was sacrificed and then came back to life to prove it, and it was done historically, it's not a myth, it's actually why it's true and nothing else, no other religion is, because he proved it and we have a historical record. This is it. Jesus or nothing. That's the way it is. I didn't write the book. I didn't write the story. It's not my narrative. It's God's. So this is where we're at. And I need to inspire. I think that's part of what this podcast is. It's part of what my live shows are. It's part of what my faith is. To inspire you to do likewise. I'm just one guy. I'm not a superhero. I have my cowardice moments. I have my fear. I'm not Jesus. I'm just trying to represent him the best I can and be as conformed to become like him as I can, because that's what he said to do. And there's no equivalent in the atheist world. You have nothing for us to aspire to become. There's nothing. There's no hero in the atheist world. There's no supernatural entity that changed the world for the better and taught people about how to treat good each other. They have nothing to offer society. Nothing. But that we're here by accident, the entire motivation of our existence is to try to survive, and that that matters about what is good and moral is if it feels good. That's all they have. They're just it is an instrumentalism of the human into a robot, a biological, determined, created machinery that doesn't even really make decisions. It's all programmed. And when you die, you go into eternal unconsciousness forever, as though you never existed. You'll never know whether you did something altruistic or evil. It won't matter, because you'll never know that you were here. There will be no recollection. That's what atheism offers. And because it's building such traction, it's why so many kids are committing suicide. You've destroyed the very absolute necessity of what it means to be human, that there's purpose to all this. There's a reason. But it's not within the human condition. It's only if there's a creator that put us here and said, there's a reason why you exist. I love you. You can know me. Your life will not become perfect, and it might even get worse. But I promise you, God wins every time. That's what I've given my life to. It's what my son has given his life to. It's what my wife and my daughter has given their lives to. It's what we're fighting for. It's what we believe in. It's what this podcast is about. If you believe in what I'm doing, please go to bradstine.com. At least fill out your email so I can have contact with you if I ever get kicked off of these other platforms, please join the Militia of the Mind. It's only $36 for a whole year, $3 a month, and that allows you access to my material that you can watch, all my comedy you can watch online. It allows you to have my newsletter. I think the first one went out this week. We're trying to build all this. This all came from scratch. If you're new to the podcast, all the people like Karen Boyd's and Benjamin Gregory's and Nick Kress's and all that, they've been here from the beginning. They helped make this thing happen, literally. I don't just say that to give them accolades. These folks that are watching, fellow Americans and believers for the most part around this nation, made this happen. So let's make it greater. Let's make it let's make it the greatest podcast in the world if we can. Why not shoot for that? Shoot for the stars. If you end up on the moon, you still got pretty high. That's what it's about. That's why I'm here. That's what we have to say today. I will be waiting for you guys to give me your thoughts about, do you think it's okay to, it's been 45 minutes, but is it okay to have some fun, maybe have a clip, certainly have our banter because it's fun and I think you guys like us. And I want you to have that comedic experience because most people come see me as a comic. And then we go to the guest, which is virtually always pretty serious unless I have a comic on, like with Tom Ryan and so forth. So let me know what you think in your comments. Please share this. Please share this. Please share this. Please try to get people to jump in and join us. Let's see if we can get that 10,000 before the year's out. It will be something that God will have to intervene to do, but it'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Anyways, hopefully we'll have some even new information to bring up next week. I will be traveling, so I'm going to be in Iowa this Thursday. Please go to my website to see where. On Friday and Sunday, I'm going to be in Ohio. And on Saturday, I too will be in Ohio. Go to bradstine.com. To my tour page, you'll see what churches I'm going to be. Please come out and see me. Shake my hand, and if you're part of the group here, we'll get a picture, and I'll put it up on the podcast next week. So thank you so much for jumping in. But let's get right to our guest. Let's see if that is really one of the most intriguing parts of the podcast for you guys watching. And as I said, this person is very unique, very skilled, very smart, very successful in her life and career and the things she's chosen to do. She was the Fox News host on the morning show, Fox and Friends, for many years. She was a Miss America. And she just doesn't mess around, man. She's a fighter. So I think she'll be an inspiration, you guys. You need to hear her story, her side of the story, and hopefully find it intriguing. Got a lot of great guests upcoming, but for right now, we got a guest that you're truly going to enjoy. Please welcome, on Stine Has Issues, Gretchen Carlson. Folks, I've had so many unique people on my podcast, Stine Has Issues, people that are always smarter, always more attractive, always more important than me. And that's what makes my podcast so special, is I just get to be the conduit for people that know so much more than me. And, just had an astrophysicist on. I've had sitting senators on. I've had professional athletes, Hall of Famers. But this is a very special guest, and I say that about a lot of them, but this one is special for a lot of reasons that you're about to find out why. If you are a person who considered themselves conservative, you certainly will recognize this person because they were on a show that everybody watched at one time when they thought that a particular network had their ideological bent in mind, and we come to find out that in fact everybody's in it for the money. So we rediscover the manipulation of people's belief systems and how easily in America and in the West even freedoms can be manipulated to really get what people really want is power. It's sad, but it's true. And also, if you were a man who watched the most popular morning show in the country at that time, Fox and Friends, from 2005 to 2013, then you will recognize this woman, and you, like all of us, had a crush on her because she was so beautiful. But more importantly to me, she had the greatest laugh on television. I love her laugh. But I also am going to introduce her not by this particular truth about herself, because it's the most important part. It happens to be part of her eclectic life. But because it's so rare, I think she deserves the honor. So please welcome a friend I'm grateful to call, but also a former Miss America, Gretchen Carlson. Hello, my friend. How are you, Gretchen?
Hey, Brad. I'm glad to know you liked my laugh, because like people who, you always have a lot of critics when you're in the television world, as you understand from being in the public eye as well. And some people used to say that they didn't like my cackle. So I'm very happy that you love my laugh, and hopefully throughout this podcast, you'll make me laugh.
Well, I hope so. I did love your laugh. It's so sweet and so cute and so special. And, maybe that's a way to start this, Gretchen, because this is what's interesting. When I got to know you, and it started, of course, I was just an interviewee on Fox and Friends, coming in doing social commentary from my unique conservative comedian perspective. And once in a while you would interview me, and then it would end up being somebody else here and there. And then we got to know each other. Then we got to do a movie together. Yeah. And I had the honor to get to know you personally. And it was, what's interesting about, and I want to talk about your whole life, because you truly are an accomplished human being, and that's important. But I think the thing that really interested me, Gretchen, and it taught me a lesson about myself. So we were having a conversation once. I don't remember exactly how it came about, but it was something to the fact, it had something to do with women in the military. I don't know why, but something about women in the military. And I said to you, I don't want women fighting in the military, right? And I remember you said, why not? And I'm like going, now here's why I'm bringing this up. It was poignant for me because it literally was a illuminating moment. So I knew you as a host on Fox and Friends. So I assumed, okay, she's a conservative, she's probably a Christian, probably has a very specific ideological bent, probably has a specific presuppositional way of seeing the world. So you have to know that you can't let women fight, because that's a very conservative point of view. And you said that, and it wasn't just because you disagreed with it, I think, but what illuminated in my mind that moment was, maybe things aren't so easy and cut and dried with how people see the world. And maybe just because somebody has a different point of view doesn't mean they don't align with you sometimes in many ways. But there isn't a way to see something, and that shouldn't eliminate your ability to interact with them and get to the bottom of how do you see the world and why do you see it this way. And so it just taught me a lesson. We kind of prejudge and assume who people are based on some superficial notion of them, and come to find out,
the story of my whole life.
Yes. Well, and you have a burden. You're a beautiful woman, but it seems almost like just to say that becomes suspect nowadays, because it's like, are we assuming that means I don't think there's more to you than that? Because that's not true. So how do we get beyond first impressions of a human being when we meet them? How do we avoid the fact that I see something and I'm going to make a judgment on that? Are we even supposed to act like that doesn't count?
Okay, so that's really deep. Let me just tackle the first part of it where I said women should fight. Yes, because I've always been a fighter for women, so that would make sense that I would say that. And also because it was sort of a precursor to what I'm doing in my life now, which is fighting for so many other people to be able to have their own voices, especially in the workplace. So it doesn't surprise me that I said that. But I think that maybe people who watched me on Fox maybe thought that I was just going to sit back and, and maybe they even wondered why I worked. I don't know. But I have always been a fighter for women. In fact, my mom, when I got my first job in Richmond, Virginia in television, I remember I called my mom and said, my gosh, do you realize women are not paid the same as men for the same job? And it wasn't because I was naive by any stretch of the imagination. I had been a really serious classical violinist, so I had done many competitions, was incredibly competitive. But, you know, look, they chose who played the violin the best, whether that was a girl or a boy. So I never had faced sort of gender discrimination. In school, I was a really good student. And again, it was like, okay, maybe I was competing with the boys, but it really was up to me as to how I did. So I came at my first job really with tremendous amount of confidence that I could do whatever anyone else could do. And it just seemed so ridiculous to me that men were paid more for the same job. And so I remember my mom saying to me, why do you always have to talk about women's rights? And I'm like, because I'm a woman in the workplace and I'm feeling the discrimination. So, you know, that goes back however many years ago when I started in this business, 35 years ago. And it's a good lesson as to who I am really deep down and and being judged. Like, I'll just add to that I grew up in a small town in Minnesota. I'm petite, you know, I'm 5'3". I have blonde hair. Whoever knew that was a negative. So you put all those things together. Oh, and then I was Miss America. I forgot that big one. So you put that into everything, and then people are just like, oh, bimbo. Like, that's the first thing they think of with Miss America. But then also the blonde hair adds into that. And then being from a small town in Minnesota, they think you're just a hick. And then you're not cultured, you're not educated, you're not smart, and then being short. Like, there's something about being petite that people have this preconceived notion that you have no power, but they don't know me very well.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, you know, I mean, I it's sort of been underestimated. I've been underestimated my whole life. In fact, the night before I decided to sue Roger Ailes at Fox News for harassment, on July 6, 2016, my husband and I didn't sleep that much the night before, and we were standing in the kitchen about 2 a.m. and he looked at me and said, I really think they underestimated you. I was like, yeah, probably. Yeah. So, you know, it is sort of one of these themes in my life, and I've been used to it. Doesn't make it right, but I've been used to it, and I kind of like the fact that people underestimate me, because especially when I was suing Roger Ailes, it was really important that he didn't know I was about to do that. And so people underestimating me, you know, they didn't understand my secret power.
All right. And for sure, because, I mean, who's going to be more effective than the person you don't expect to be strong? But then, I mean, you're the one that's going to catch them out of left field because they don't assume you got anything to offer. And clearly, if there was someone who has shown behavior that is problematic or illegal or whatever you want to call it, it's not like they just picked you out of the blue and that was the only person involved. Obviously, it would have been a behavioral issue that had been happening for years. But the casting couch, if I can be so crude, is about as old as it gets. I mean, this has been the way of the world for so long, that men have used power and sexual dynamics to get kind of what they wanted. And, you know, one often wonders, Gretchen, if women were savvy to that and said, okay, well, then I'll use that to get what I want. I don't know. You know, I mean, I don't think it's that complicated, the male and female thing. We've all been fighting each other for equal respect.
Yeah, but it doesn't work that way when the male is actually in charge of your job and actually in charge of whether or not you're going to be promoted, and when they you know, look, this is my pitch when I go to members of Congress and try and get both sides to come together, because I really believe these are apolitical issues. Yeah. Before somebody decides to harass or assault you, they don't ask you what party you're in, because they really don't care. Right. I mean, this is all about power, and you know, they don't say, hey, are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? Or are you an independent like I am? No, they don't do that, because it's about power. So there is a ton of inequity in the system and in the workplace. And by the way, the old sort of thing about the casting couch, you know, yes, in television and maybe in Hollywood, this has been going on for forever. But what I've learned after my whole story in 7 years is that this is happening everywhere. I mean, this is happening to fast food workers. This is happening to police officers. This is happening to members of our military. doctors, lawyers, teachers, accountants. I mean, it's just, so it's not just, we think of the casting couch and we go, oh yeah, well, that's just that business. No, there's an epidemic of this behavior in every business. And so there's a ton of power dynamics there that are at play.
Yeah, well, and I wonder if historically women really didn't have any recourse, so they kind of said, I guess this goes with the territory, and I'm going to have to figure out how to navigate this somehow and get through it. It's not fair, clearly, and obviously no. But as a Christian man, I consider that abhorrent. I mean, it's immoral. It's like treat somebody with respect and dignity, especially a woman who is maybe weaker physically and could be taken advantage of. I mean, when men rape women that don't normally work the other way around. So there is a physicality to it, a power dynamic, an intimidation factor that men can put upon a woman. But you, man, I mean, I get to know you, Gretchen, and you make it very clear you're not to be trifled with. You know exactly what you believe. You know exactly what you stand for, and you're not screwing around. You're going to let people know it. And I guess that even that strength, that indignity, can be interpreted as being a bitch or being a jerk or whatever people want to use as an attack on a woman.
That's only for women. That doesn't follow for men. So
no, that's what I'm saying.
These are stereotypes that exist, and I'm so far past that, Brad. To be honest with you, like I don't really care what people think about me anymore.
No, I know that.
No,
but that's what I mean by them. I guess that's what I was getting at, though, was it's easier to put a title upon you than deal with the fact that perhaps there's a reason why this person's reacting this way, because you're abusive. They're not, and they don't like it. But you have that strength, and I guess as we go into some of these other questions, why don't we find out where that came from? I don't know. I mean, I suppose there's a DNA, a genetic makeup of every individual. You have 2 kids. You raise them the same, but they have different personalities. They have different strengths and weaknesses. It's kind of inherent. So you grew up in a little town in Minnesota, a Midwestern gal, right? What are you, Swedish? I guess, isn't that who mostly or part of Minnesota was?
Yeah, I'm talar svenska lite grann. Yes, I'm 100% Swedish, and one time I was on that one of those that PBS show about finding your roots, and actually found out, I forget if I knew this or not, but my mom and my dad's side of the family actually were from the exact same part of Sweden, which is really unusual because my relatives have been here since my great-great-grandparents. So, and actually my daughter was just studying abroad this year in college, and she is studying in Stockholm. So it's coming full circle. But yeah, it was a small town in Minnesota. My grandfather was the Lutheran minister in town, and my dad's side of the family had a car dealership in town. And my mom was a teacher, and then she was a big volunteer, and then she ended up actually running the car dealership. And then she called me and said, now I know what you're saying about women and men in the workplace. But yeah, it was an ideal, life growing up. I grew up on the Mississippi River. I learned how to bait my own, hook to go fishing when I was 5 years old. And I was told by my parents every single day that you can be anything you want to be. And that was really, really important, because I learned later on that most kids are not told that. And I believed them. I actually believed them. My mom would actually put the caveat on it, though. It's going to take a tremendous amount of hard work. And so they instilled in me this Protestant work ethic, amazing Midwestern values, humbleness, volunteerism, philanthropy, family. I mean, just all of that was an essential part of my upbringing. And actually, now that I'm raising my kids in the New York area, I make sure that they go home to my home to Minnesota to see a simpler life. I think the number one thing that I can teach my children is all of those qualities that I had in that upbringing. And that's tougher and tougher in our generations now. But it's something that I really hold dear. I think it had a tremendous amount to do with who I became, and back to your question, fire in your belly, I think a lot of that's innate. to your point about genetics, I'd say, 75% of my fire in my belly is just how I was born.
Mm.
And I'd say 25% of it, though, is how that was cultivated, maybe more, who
But
helped.
I always presumed that, and of course, I should have, I forgot to bring out in your book that you gave me years ago about your life. It's wonderful because it goes more in depth.
Getting real.
Yeah, get real. And I always assumed, I guess, and maybe, I don't know if it's because there's something I just presumed based on who you are, or if it was from the book. I don't even remember now, but I guess I presumed that your mother was a fighter and more of a, if you want to use the word feminist, certainly she was from a different generation, but I just assumed she kind of planted that mother-daughter, hey, you're not second class, you can be whatever you become. But it seems like sometimes she was a pretty balanced and almost maybe, I mean, if she's questioning why you talking about feminism, whatever, obviously there was another element of her that perhaps isn't what we would call a classical feminist, right? I mean, maybe
Oh no, she's I would never call her a feminist. I would call her an incredibly strong stoic woman. Who, yes, she was the driving force and has been and still is I'm blessed to still have my parents in my life, driving force in my life. I mean, she's my best friend, but she's also my number one critic, I mean, she tells it to me straight. I always know I'm going to get the truth from her. And I think that's really helpful because you don't need yes people in your life. You need love and support and guidance. But you also need somebody who's going to set you straight. People who have people around them that only tell them what they want to hear is not a good thing. But my dad was sort of the, I'm so blessed to have him in my life still too, because he taught me things that were the opposite of that, like how important it was to have a great sense of humor and how humility. I learned humility from my dad. I learned emotions from my dad, ironically. Like I'm such an emotional person, and my dad and I would watch TV at night from time to time, and like really inspiring commercials would come on, and I'd be like, oh God, I can't look over at Dad because I know he's going to be crying. And I was crying because it was like, somebody giving.
I've never seen that in you. I never saw that.
Yeah.
Party.
No, and I would look at him and go, oh, he's crying. Of course he's crying. My mom would have never been crying, So it was and my dad cleaned the dishes and he swept the floor, and wow. He also worked incredibly hard. He'd come home for dinner and then he'd go back to work because car dealerships were open till 9:00 at night. But so I loved the way in which I was raised because I had, this wonderful mix, but they were actually sort of the opposite of the stereotypes that we were talking about earlier. And those lessons are incredibly important in the way in which I'm raising my kids, a girl and a boy.
Well, and I think I've probably seen some clips maybe on Instagram or Facebook following you, whatever, of your kids who seem to be highly accomplished. But I mean, the initial launch, I guess, into the discipline of your life was a violin. I mean, I believe you were a world-class violinist at a very young age. And so that is not easy. That's a very difficult instrument to master. And certainly takes incredible discipline and practice because it's so hard. Well, so where is the difference between mom forced that on me or dad demanded, or this is going to be part of you? Because if you don't get into it, you ain't going to be any good. So you had to also love it somehow, or did you resent it? It seemed like later you started resenting the violin. Was that because your parents pushed you into it, or did you feel like this isn't my thing anymore?
Oh, it was definitely the latter. So look, I just happened to start playing the violin kind of as a fluke. I was very musical, I guess. Like I would hear tunes on TV and I would go plunk them out on the piano. So my mom was like, oh gosh, I think she might be musical. So we actually went up to the neighborhood piano teacher because I said, I want to play the piano. And she took one look at my hands and she was like, oh my gosh, her fingers are too small. She'll never be any good at the piano. And so she said, why don't you go up to the school and look at, stringed instruments? And I can still see myself walking into this school as a 6-year-old. And do you remember this at your school? Like they had the instruments hanging on the wall. Like they had violins, violas, cellos, and I don't think they could hang the string bass because that was too big. Yeah. But I was a tiny little kid. So I was like, I'll pick the smallest one. That's the violin. And so it was just this fluke thing. And it clicked with me immediately where I have this recording still. I gave it to my dad several Christmases ago because, of course, it was on a cassette tape, and then I had it put over into a much higher digital form for him. But I made a Christmas Carol recording for him playing the violin in December after I'd only started playing the violin in September. And I still have it. It's pretty damn good. I mean, it's like I've been playing for two and a half months. So it just clicked. And then I started getting really serious about it. I started getting better teachers. And then I, came to New York City and studied with the best in the world. But to your latter point about why I ended up giving it up, I gave it up at 17. And it really was a couple things. It was because I enjoyed so many other things in life. Like as I said earlier, I was a good student. I did all the plays in school. I was in a bunch of other volunteer organizations. I liked sports to the extent that my mom would let me play the ones that wouldn't hurt my fingers. And so I realized, like, to be what I wanted to be as a concert violinist, I would have to give up everything else in my life. And I just wasn't willing to do that. And then the other thing, and I think this was a really mature thing, I didn't think of it at the time, but it is now in retrospect, was that because I had been hanging out with older musicians, because I was always the youngest kid at all these camps and stuff, like I started going when I was 10 and the people were 21.
Right.
And so I saw that to me, they seemed unhappy. And I don't want to, again, we're talking about stereotypes. I don't want to put stereotypes out there that all musicians are unhappy. I do think we should respect our classical musicians more in this country than we do, because we respect our sports heroes, but we don't respect our classical musicians.
Right.
So there is that. But I just sensed that it wasn't happiness. And I was such a happy kid that I think psychologically that was one of the reasons I chose not to do it, and it's really how I ended up getting into Miss America, Brad, because my mom and dad were really devastated that I gave up the violin, and not because they necessarily wanted me to be a concert artist, but because of what you alluded to, like all this time and effort and discipline and hours. I mean, I was practicing 4 or 5 hours a day, and they just felt like this immense talent was so wasted to give up. And so when my mom got a brochure in the mail about Miss America, it said that half of a candidate's points were based on talent. Half! And she called me when I was studying overseas, and she was like, I found something for you to do. And I was like, what? And she said, Miss America. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then I went back to all the things we were talking about earlier. I'm from Minnesota. I'm short. I've never been in pageants. Classical violin has never won. And she's like, I don't care. I think you can do it. And so, as I said, my mom's been a force in my life. And so I was like, well, I guess she wants me to do this. So I had no idea how it was going to be, or if I was going to even get out of the first round. But I ended up really, like anything else, I put my heart and soul into it. I gave it 110%, happened to work out. There's a tremendous amount of luck involved in that. But, I did have the talent, I did have that talent. And I think I had the smarts to do well in the interview. But certainly it wasn't something I had been planning to do in my life, which is sort of a testament to how the rest of my life has worked out.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, I do respect you so much. I really do. You're so relentless. Whatever, you're like obsessive compulsive, like what, and I'm like this too, though. Whatever I ever was interested in, it wasn't a lot. I'm an autodidact, so everything I've ever learned was through books and self-taught. I'm not good at school. My mind doesn't work. I'm an artist, so it's difficult to teach me typically through this system, academia, because it's a very rote system, a very formulaic system for an artistic or a creative person. Doesn't work for us. We don't learn that way, and they don't know how to fix it or adjust it, or they don't want to. And so guys like us flounder. We have to find our own way, because nobody's going to figure this out. There was no ADHD when we're about the same age. There was no medicine. There was no tranquilizers or whatever they give kids nowadays. If you had this thing, ADHD, I guess they call it now, you had to manage. You got to navigate life, and this is what you get. So figure it out, because nobody's going to coddle you. Well, clearly that's not how it is now, but whatever I got into, Gretchen, I went in 100%. If I'm baseball, I mean, your husband is a baseball agent. for some of the biggest baseball players in history. I don't know if he's Ohtani's agent, but if he is, good, Merry Christmas. But
he's not, but I understand the deal.
But I would say that I wanted to play baseball, so I went to the library, got every book on baseball, read it from cover to cover, tried to practice and be as good as I could be. Then I became a magician, and I learned sleight of hand and whatever. Then I became a comic. Whatever I wanted to do well, I did, because I was obsessed, and nobody's going to stop me from doing it. But the double-edged sword with that personality trait is if you get into some darker stuff, if you find some difficult parts of your life, that can go south too, because you just can't stop. You can't manage balance. You get focused. And so whatever you're in, like, that's why I don't drink anymore, because I couldn't drink a drink. I had to have 5. I just can't stop anything I do. It's got to be all in. So, so it's a double-edged sword. But listen, to be in a Miss America, there's only been, from my calculation, if it started in 21, 102 Miss America. You're almost like people that landed on the moon. It's really rare to be a Miss.
It is really rare. Yeah, there was, I don't even know, I should know my history better. One Miss America was Miss America twice early on. So that takes 1 year off. And then I think it was during World War II, they did not have a competition, and also during COVID, they did not have a competition. So the 100th anniversary was in 2021. Actually, that's the year they didn't have a competition. But I'm not sure there's actually been 100 Miss Americas yet. That somebody can go out and research that and let us know. I should know that, but I don't.
I don't know. I just assume it said they started in 21, so I just counted up the numbers, but I didn't know, maybe there's some missing pieces. But the truth is, every girl, and I don't know if it's the same, I don't know, in 2023, I don't know what Gen X and Zs and thinks and millennials think anymore. Our culture has gone so sideways and so different from everything guys like you and I grew up in. I think we're in the baby boomer generation. But when we were growing up, I think it was very typical for a little girl when they were playing make-believe, I want to be Miss America. I mean, it was kind of like being a cowboy as a boy or being a thing. Miss America was one of the things you pretended to be. You did it. I mean, that must be so ridiculous. You got 50 people a year trying to do this, women, and then you pull it off. And I mean,
yeah, it's actually more than that, because when I competed, so it's still this way. You have to win a local competition first, so you represent, your community, or if your community doesn't have a competition that goes to Miss America, you can go to another community. Sometimes they let outside people come in. So you have to win that stage. Then that makes you eligible to go to the state competition. You have to win that. And then that makes you eligible to go to Miss America. When I competed, there were 85,000 young women who started at that local level. Unfortunately, it's dwindled dramatically since then. But, back then, and keep in mind, also, we didn't have all the distractions in life that we have now, including cable television, for example. So back when I competed, Miss America was the second most watched event of the year after the Super Bowl. I mean, it's crazy. Now it's not even on TV. So it's just,
why not? What happened?
It's just, I guess, the relevancy of it. It was always a nonprofit organization. By the way, they give away scholarship dollars too, which was the other reason my mom wanted me to do it. And so the $50,000 I won for winning Miss America, I paid for the rest of my education at Stanford University. That's why thousands of women do this every year, because it helps them pay for college, which really singles out Miss America from Miss USA, for example, which doesn't have talent and doesn't give away scholarship money. But it's a nonprofit, so it's hard to continue to stay afloat. But I think it's the relevancy issue. Some people think that it just doesn't apply to 2023 anymore. But I always looked at it as that Miss America sort of followed, or was following, how women are evolving in society. That makes sense. So, women in the 50s were totally different than they are now. And so was Miss America, I mean, Miss America in the 50s was completely different than what Miss Americas are doing now. I mean, Miss Americas now are becoming politicians and running for office and aerospace engineers. And,
Right.
you know, it's just, it follows society and how women have evolved. But I just don't think that, I think there's too many other competitive things for young women to be involved in now, from sports to chess club to, you know, music to whatever. I think there's just too many other things out there. Look, everyone wants to be a TikTok influencer.
Right.
So,
There's a, yeah, no, unfortunately, the draw now is very superficial
mhm.
fame, and where there isn't a lot of talent necessary, where there's not a lot of work necessary. It's sad. It's a broken system of of lack of meritocracy. It just is. There was a time when it mattered that you accomplished something. You felt good. It was dignifying. You talk about the Protestant work ethic. That's a Christian construct that said that work is sacred. It's okay to work. That's also beautiful. That's also a witness that to God, that he allows us to earn a living and to provide for people. And this is part of the cultural milieu that's simply vanishing away. And, you know, weren't you involved? Weren't you even I don't know if you were, I don't even know what the term, were you a president? Weren't you involved in Miss America for a year or so? Like they brought you on the advisory board?
Yeah. Oh, no. It was more than advisory board, unfortunately. Remember that Christian saying, no good deed goes unpunished?
Right.
So I was on the board years ago. And, you know, basically all I did was give my money to the organization. And then I resigned from the board because I didn't like the way in which it was, you know, things that were going on. And then that all came to light with the guy that was in charge. So he was ousted. And then the whole thing was, you know, topsy-turvy. And so all the Miss Americas asked if I would volunteer my time to come on and serve as the chair of the board. And this was not something I ever intended to do, wanted to do. And it took up like 100,000,000% of my time. I tried to revive it to make it modern, which included getting rid of the swimsuit competition, which was only 10% of the points anyway. And from being on the board all those years, when I would go and try and get sponsors, because again, it was a nonprofit, I'd go meet with companies through my contacts from being on television, and they all loved the idea of the program for all the aforementioned attributes, but they would always say to me at the end, are you still gonna have the swimsuit competition? Because if you are, we're not gonna support you. And I would say, yes, we're still, at that time, yes, we're still gonna have the swimsuit competition. And so we never got those sponsors. So as we all came into this new era, and all the people were on the board were also former Miss Americas, we unanimously decided that it was time in 2000, whatever that was, 18, to eliminate that category and really focus on what made Miss America so different and so special, which was scholarship and talent and smarts. And the world saw that as a wonderful thing. Suddenly I was getting meetings with Fortune 500 companies that suddenly wanted to sponsor Miss America now. Keep in mind, we needed the money desperately. And then the inside pageant people got very upset because they still wanted their swimsuit. So basically they created a big fuss. And I mean, I'm just gonna tell you honestly what happened now because time's passed and whatever. They created a big fuss, and all those companies that I was in discussions with all went away because they don't want to, no company's going to, you know, sponsor you if you have any kind of controversy, right? So there was all, they looked at it as all this infighting. And so they went away. And it was, gosh, it was a horrible time in my life. Here I was just volunteering my time, my connections, my, you know, smarts, whatever. And it just turned into a nightmare. So when I was able to secure NBC to broadcast the telecast for the next year, I promptly resigned. And I have never gone back to Miss America. I'm not sure that I ever will. So many former Miss Americas treated me so horribly during that process.
Because you did, because of the swimsuit thing?
Oh yeah, and other, you know, just other stuff. I don't, you know, I just don't think that it's always easy to look at a situation and think you can do something better until you're actually in the position. There's a huge misunderstanding of, first of all, the finances. Second of all, what it took to actually try to raise money. Until you're in that situation, so there were a lot of people saying what they thought, accusations being thrown around, and it was just unfortunate because it had been such a great part of, my life. And I really attribute me getting into television for sure from being Miss America, because I was forced to be on my feet on a daily basis, having to give speeches without notes, being on television every day. And it gave me amazing communication skills.
Yeah. But you had to have that inherently. I think I saw the clip once of some prank show or something they had you on, and everything went sideways, and you had to just think on your feet, and you did it. But listen, you either have that acumen or you don't. Not everybody can, and so that kind of said, this girl really has some goods here that we could use in so many levels. And you had so much going for you, and this is, I guess maybe this can lead us in this next direction, because where your life ended up going after Fox, through no fault of your own, obviously, if somebody was treating you illegally, would be the easiest way to call it. You certainly should be able to defend yourself. And then it suddenly became a national issue. I mean, suddenly Gretchen Carlson on the #1 morning show, so very well known, very famous, and because so many conservatives in America, are so loyal to that perspective, so saw you as their champion, and suddenly you're coming on and saying, "Sorry, but this dude is sexually harassing me," and I'm not going to function like that, but I want people to know it, because it shouldn't exist. This shouldn't exist in society. And until the trailblazers take all the arrows, until somebody has the courage to say, I guess I'll go this alone, and if I survive, I do. If I don't, I don't. But maybe it'll be a catalyst to get more folks to start saying this is an issue that needs to be addressed. I had a similar, certainly not sexual harassment, but I had a situation that happened to me where I had to take some legal action over a theft of something, intellectual property. And when you do that, when they force you into mediation, you do sign an NDA. That part of the conclusion is, you're not allowed to talk about it like forever. And it's like, well, did I accomplish anything? Because what I really want to be able to say is, this is what A, B, and C are doing. You need to know A, so you don't get involved with A, B, and C because they're not ethical. But two, I want it out in the open. I want the light shined on here so people can understand this is real and it needs to stop. Just like we're now seeing in sex trafficking and things that we never knew was happening under our midst, has been happening for years. So that was a big deal for you, is fighting against NDAs. Now, is that in general or specifically for sexual harassment cases? Is that where your fight is for right now?
Yeah. Well, and just to be clear, when I came forward at Fox News, it's not like you just decide to do that like the night before. I mean, this building the kind of courage that it takes to do something like that, it was years. And it really, thanks to my parents, again, who were supporting me, my husband, eventually my kids. But really what catapulted me over the cliff was that they fired me.
Yeah.
I mean, after a 32-year career in television and getting to the top of where I wanted to be, they fired me. And there was no reason why they fired me other than because I wouldn't acquiesce. So, I finally decided that if I don't do something about this, quite honestly, who will?
Yeah.
And so, so I jumped. But, look, my life has worked in so many mysterious ways that the one constant has been this hard work ethic and fighting for what's fighting for what's right. And so what happened after that was that so many women started reaching out to me and saying, my God, the same thing happened to me, but I was forced into silence. And I started going, oh my gosh, in my good Midwestern values, I was writing all of them back because my mom always made me write personal thank you notes, handwritten. And by the way, I make my kids do that too, because I think it's a very good skill to have. And so I was writing.
If they can even write cursive.
They can still.
Okay.
And so then it got into dozens, hundreds, thousands. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is an epidemic. So I learned, first of all, that harassment in the workplace was an epidemic. And we thought we had overcome it. But the reason we thought we had overcome it is because everything was going to secrecy through NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, or something called forced arbitration clauses. And so I decided that I needed to do something about it, because all these women who reached out to me, they never worked again after they had had the courage to come forward. Because in our society, we still unfortunately demonize people who have the courage to come forward. I don't know what chip was missing in our culture whenever we started feeling this way, but we protect the predator, and we villainize the person who has the courage to come and say something's not right. So I decided I had to try and fix it. And that's a huge mountain to try and climb up, but we've been really successful. So I formed my nonprofit called Lift Our Voices 4 years ago. I had already been working and walking the halls of Congress before then, but to make a very long story short, we passed 2 bipartisan bills into law last year, and they are the biggest labor law changes in the last 100 years. And the first one ends forced arbitration for sexual misconduct, and the second one ends NDAs. So those 2 things are
Really?
how companies have been able to silence survivors of sexual misconduct over the last 40 years. They've just exploded in our workplace contracts. People have no idea what they're signing on their first day. They see an NDA and they think that or it might be, camouflaged as a confidentiality clause. They think that they're signing it to protect trade secrets of the company that they're working for. And by the way, I'm all in favor of that. Companies should be able to have that protected, but that's not what they're signing. 1/3 of all Americans now are signing on their first day of work. They're signing these expansive NDAs that basically say, if something bad happens to you, you can never talk about it. But it doesn't say it like that, but that's what it means.
Yeah.
So then something bad happens, and then they realize that they can't talk about it, and it's too late. So, and then in my case, I had both of them. I had an NDA upon employment at Fox, but then in my last contract, they put in what I'm talking about, this forced arbitration clause. So what that meant was, if a person would go to complain, they would not be able to hire lawyers and file a lawsuit, because they would be forced into this different option called arbitration that they'd already agreed to on their first day of work, but they had no idea they were agreeing to it.
Right.
So even a smart, educated person like myself, who was planning my lawsuit years before, I knew that forced arbitration clause came into my contract, and I asked people about it, but they said, don't worry about it. It's becoming the way of the world. And unfortunately, they were right. It's just exploded. By next year, 84% of all Americans will have these clauses in their contracts unless I help to stop it. That's crazy. In 1991, 2% of us had them. So there's been this explosion of silencing people at work, and not just for sexual harassment, for any kind of discrimination, for age, disability, religion, race, gender, etc. So this has become my mission now through my nonprofit. And as I said, we were successful in bringing both parties together, which is a huge accomplishment in this hyper-political time that we live in. And we were able to, in fact, I'm looking at the photo right here in my home office of the day that it was signed into law in Washington. And now we've introduced more legislation, again, bipartisan, to try and eradicate forced arbitration for age discrimination as well. That was the next thing that we could get both parties to come together on.
Nice.
So, this is now my passion. This is my life work. This is what I do. And quite honestly, this will be so much more important than anything I ever did as a journalist. Like, it doesn't matter that I interviewed presidents of the United States. Like, what I'm doing now is helping millions of people that I will never meet. And this will end up being my legacy above anything else that I've done in my life.
Well, no, and it's obviously clearly a beautiful addition to what used to be. We were sort of the peasant that had to take what was given to us, and we had no options. And you said, nope, I'm not going to do that. And God bless you for that. So it does bring up the double-edged sword that comes with anything. And this is really where we're at in America. Like, nobody trusts anybody anymore. Nobody, I mean, we're so bipartisan. We're so at odds with each other. We can't learn to agree to disagree agreeably. We've lost any sense of simply having a different point of view without hating the other guy. And listen, some points of view are toxic. They are. Some things are bad and they're evil and they kill things and people and stuff. So I get it. It's tricky and it's hard. And especially if you believe in free speech, as I do as a comic, my gosh, I have to have access to every topic, every word. I don't care what it is. And I don't care if you think it's hurtful or hateful. I don't care what you think. Certainly, I'm not trying to be malicious to anybody. But freedom in free speech only matters if it's free speech you hate. If that can be stopped, there's no free speech. And that's a disciplined, mature human, which I do not see running the world anymore. There's a very specific agenda, unfortunately. But it does bring up something that we're going to get close, maybe 15 minutes left from what you said you had. But I do want to bring this up because I want to be balanced and fair so we can at least navigate it because people might be curious. So you got tarnished maybe with a terminology that came the banner for this point of view, which is called the Me Too movement. When I watched all this take place, Gretchen, and you were kind of in the middle of that whirlwind, I'm almost thinking, I think she started this thing. I think Gretchen, I hadn't talked to you at that point. And it is important. I remember my mom telling me one time years ago, she just sort of said, there's a lot about me, I've never said, but anyway, she made some comment about her life and what had been growing up, and she's 80 now, but that some doctor had sexually abused her in going to the doctor or something, and stuff that you're going, what?
Yeah, it's awful.
Well, these are stuff that happened to women that they just sucked it up, especially coming out of the 40s and the 50s and 60s like she did. Like, I guess this is what happens. But what do we do with the abuse, right? And I'm not saying that your moniker is Me Too, and maybe that's a bygone concept now, or maybe that's lost its.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What do you mean I was tarnished by the?
No. Well, what I mean is the term becomes something that you didn't mean it. You didn't coin the term, did you? Or I didn't know.
No. Tarana Burke coined the term years and years ago. And then Alyssa Milano, the actress, sort of brought it back to life on social media. But that was all about the Harvey Weinstein allegations, which were a full 15 months after I came forward. So yes, I mean, in this latest iteration of people talking about sexual misconduct at work, yes, my case was the biggest one that ignited the movement in 2016. I don't see any negative there might be some people.
So here's what I would want to say, though. Here's what I want to say. So we do come up with false accusations against men, right? We've seen that too. So I'm
few.
Yeah, but I'm trying to be a true journalist and be open to the fact that things can be abused, right? They can be used against people unfairly. So all I was trying to get at was,
let me interject there, though, Brad, because I know what you're saying, but as a journalist, I can say this, and I have a huge understanding of this. We, as journalists, unfortunately, we give the same amount of time to a story. Like, I'm going to go back to the Duke lacrosse story that people might remember 15 years ago, where the allegations ended up being false. But in journalism, and especially at Fox, we gave an inordinate amount of time to covering that story about the false allegations. So and we weren't covering at the same time stories of actual true allegations that were happening. And so we build this perception out there that there's just as many false allegations as there are true allegations. And I'm here to tell you, after I'm an expert in this after 7 years now, that is simply not the case. I would say it's a minuscule percentage that are not true allegations. And the reason why I know that personally is because it ain't fun to come forward.
Mm.
You know, you disrupt your entire life. You lose your career.
Yeah.
You lose friends. I mean, your livelihood. You are maligned like I was, right? Yeah. So it ain't fun to come forward. So it's not like people are like lining up going, hey, now that we're finally talking about harassment in the workplace, I think I'm just going to throw my hat in the ring and make up some stuff.
Yeah.
And by the way, just the final caveat on it, it's really difficult to prove these claims because at the state laws, there's so much you have to be able to prove to even be able to come forward after maybe somebody can make an allegation, but to actually win one of these kinds of cases is almost impossible. So I just want to make sure we're clear and your listeners are clear that the media plays a huge role in hyping up, and not just on sexual harassment cases, in a lot of topics, quite honestly, to give a false impression of what the reality actually is.
Yes, no, I understand. Well, listen, we saw it with COVID. They choose a side and let's run this into the ground because it's getting clicks, it's selling papers, it's getting subscribers. It is a disgrace what has happened to journalism. It's sad because we don't even know what's true anymore. I'm a big boy. Give me both sides. Let me draw a conclusion. But please don't take a side as propagandists. That's not America. That's not freedom. And that's what I'm seeing happen. You know, it's funny, Gretchen, when we got to kind of meet face to face a little bit more personally, it was on a movie set called Persecuted that you and I were involved with. And I remember you came, we kind of knew each other a little bit because of Fox and Friends, and I was a guest on there, but we started getting to know each other a little bit, obviously a little bit more intimately. But what was funny to me is that
not intimately. Wait.
Oh no! I mean, personally, right. Yeah,
I don't want that to be the headline here.
Exactly. Here comes the Me Too movement. I didn't mean it that way. No, but I mean, we got to know each other more personally. Would have been a better.
Yes.
term.
Thank you.
My bad. But what was interesting is that we're in New Mexico and we're filming, and you came over. I think you had an assistant helping you, but I'll never forget this because I remember thinking to myself, okay, she's never really done a feature film before. Obviously, she's a career woman. She's very good at this. But this is a little different animal. She's learning the ropes on this. It's different. And I felt a male protection towards you, like a little sister. Like I got to make sure nobody messes with her and makes her feel uncomfortable or in any ways exploits her. And because you were on Fox still at that time, so I think New Mexico is necessarily known for its right leaning. So I thought, well, are they going to be mean to her? And I had this sense of I got to protect her and be your shield. If there was a woman on set that didn't need protection.
Oh, please.
Well, no, but
I didn't know what I was doing.
But I'm just,
I didn't.
And you did a wonderful job. But my point was that I think inherent in a man is protecting a woman. I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that's demeaning. I think it's the way we're kind of made. And that's how I did. You didn't need it, but it's how I felt. And yet, nevertheless, and then I got to know you more and more. And wow, this woman is strong. And this woman is focused, and she knows what she's going. She's going to get it. You've accomplished that incredible level. So I'm going. I want to be sensitive to your time. You said you had about an hour or so. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you one more question. This goes to my subscribers of Brad Stine Has Issues. They only get to see it if they're subscribers because it's a bonus question, but I guess what I would want to ask you in the end is, well, you've been on kind of both sides of the coin. I mean, you represented the conservatives on Fox and Friends. We never really talked about your ideological or philosophical point of view at a deeper level. I assumed, like anybody would, because you were on Fox, you were conservative. You've talked a little bit about your upbringing and certainly had those elements involved. I'm pretty sure you're Christian as well, and not apologetic. But what would you say? what would you, in your view of kind of being on both sides of the fence and probably have good friendships from people from both sides of the fence, what would you say is necessary for America to find its way again in being, if not kind to each other, respectful of points of view each other, and learning to find some kind of American foundation we can all agree on, because we cannot survive as a nation like this. It will not work. You can't be hating each other and crushing each other and destroying each other and survive. You can't. So what would, from your perspective of a wide range of eclectic friends and acquaintances, can we find America again, the balance of what it meant to be one of us?
Yeah, look, couple things. I think the answer.
I'm grateful for you. I really am. I'm very proud you're my friend, because I so admire your tenacity, but your intelligence, your strength as a woman, but your femininity as well. I mean, hope that didn't sound like an insult, but I believe that. I mean, it's sad that someone even has to preface it like that, but there used to be, it was okay to say you got a lot of attributes that I admire. So thank you for coming on. You're a very busy person, and to be on my small but growing podcast was an honor. Thank you, Gretchen. That was very kind.
Thanks, Brad. It's always great to see you, and I really appreciated the time and enjoyed my time with you. All the best.
Mine too, and perhaps we'll run into each other again someday and have a coffee.
In an airport.
Yes, we do that all the time.
That's where we usually run into each other.
Folks, that was Gretchen Carlson. Please watch what she's up to. Maybe go to her website. Maybe donate to her nonprofit. You might believe in what she's up to. We'll help her. That's what it means to the American way. Remember, folks, be about truth-telling. PC free is liberty. If somebody says you're politically incorrect, say thank you for the compliment. This is, in fact, God's comic, Brad Stine, doing what I always do, putting the woke back to sleep. See you next Monday. See ya. Thanks. Gretchen, you're so sweet. Have a wonderful Christmas, and stay in touch, will you?
Okay, sorry I have to run, but really appreciate it.
You too. Thanks, kiddo.
Take care.